my friend. What's up? I'm glad to have you here. This is Carolina Millan on another episode of Driving with Carolina. In today's episode, I want to share with you a few, they're not even secrets, but I would say insights from my experience as a marketer doing webinars. And I have done my fair share of webinars. I actually haven't counted them. I probably should count them. But I have done my fair share, and I feel like I'm in a position where I can give you some advice or some tips. Webinars, my friend, are probably the best way for you to sell, except when you are in a live event, right? A live seminar where people are right there in person, sitting, in front of you and listening attentively. A webinar is the next best thing after a live event. And what I love the most about webinars is getting people to participate as much as possible. Even if whatever they're going to say might hurt you or be negative, you need to be prepared for that, because that's going to contribute to your learning experience, and it's going to contribute to your next webinar being amazing, being, awesome. So, my friend, what have I learned so far? Well, first of all, whenever you're going to plan your webinar, when you schedule your webinar, I'm going to give you at least 3 tips here. Tip number 1 is when you're scheduling your webinar, you have this little description. No matter what platform you're using, be it GoToWebinar, Webinar Jam, or any other platform. I personally am happy with GoToWebinar. I know it's not the most advanced, but it's widely used. It's very reliable. When you're scheduling it, make sure that you mention what people are going to learn. On this call, you are going to learn A, B, C, D. And every sentence, those sentences need to be powerful. And they need to give away, the main aspect of what you're going to teach, but they also need to provide people with, this feeling of curiosity. You need to bring out the curiosity in people when you're adding, the bullet points. So make sure that you tell them, for example, in the first half of the webinar, I'm going to reveal to you the 5 headlines that I have used in my email marketing campaigns that have produced up to 3 times more conversions than any other headline I have ever used. Boom. That's powerful. And then, of course, make sure that you can deliver that. Make sure that you go through, your email marketing campaigns, you look at your headlines, and you decide, okay, these are the 5 best headlines, and I got these results from them. Then, another bullet point could be, in the first 15 minutes of the webinar, I'm going to introduce to you a strategy that I'm currently implementing in my own business to double my traffic. Boom. So you're telling them, but you're not telling them, right? You're not going to go on those bullet points and tell them, with the name of the strategy, the name of the software, the name of the traffic source. You're not going to give away those headlines. You want them to show up, but you want to give them a good enough reason why they should dedicate 1 hour of their time, an hour that they're never getting back to listen to you. And by all means, you need to appreciate people's time. Now, another insight I could give you, insight number 2. As soon as you start the webinar, be super, super friendly from the very beginning. Ask people how they're doing. Interact with them. Remember, this is like having them in a room. When you have them in the room, I am a speaker too, so I've had people in a room, and even though I still get nervous when I speak on stage, I don't have any professional training as a speaker, but I really do enjoy, and I do it with passion. Get people to raise their hand, get people to do things during the webinar, so that they're not just listening to you the whole time. They have to be listening to you, but what I mean is so that they're not completely passive, okay? Now, there are moments on your webinar where you will definitely want them to pay close attention to what you're saying, so you don't want them to to be doing much, but taking notes. But ask them questions in the middle of the webinar. 5, 10, 15 minutes in, ask them, hey, are you following me? Any questions so far? Even if you want to ask the questions at the end of, even if you want to answer the questions at the end of the webinar, ask them every few minutes. If you have any questions, type them in. I'll answer them at the end of the call. But type them in right now so that you don't forget what your questions were. That will keep people excited and interacting. Another good thing to do, I haven't done this much because people are just shy, but ask people if they have their microphone with them, if anybody would like to speak up during the webinar, and unmute them. Get people to talk to you live, maybe ask you their questions live. Get at least 2 or 3 people to ask you something on the call. That'll make it more personal. That will put you in a situation where you can help someone right there on the spot, and they will think much, much higher of you. Okay, that's another good insight. And I'll give you a 4th insight. It's because I really enjoy this. Call to action. Call to action. You gotta have a call to action on your webinars, except of course if your webinar is part of a training program where people already paid to be there. Unless it's not a sales webinar, but it's more like a course. You don't necessarily have to sell something at the end of every webinar. But if this is a free webinar that you've scheduled, and your goal is to get people to take an action with you, then by all means have your call to action ready, and don't wait until the very, very end of the webinar. People will start leaving after about an hour, so don't make it that long. Try to bring your call to action at around 50 minutes in, and then don't end the webinar immediately. Keep it going. Keep reminding people to click on the link. Keep reminding people to fill out the form, to buy the product, to whatever the call to action is. But it has to be very, very clear, and you cannot improvise that part. I do improvise a lot on my webinars, but I know from the start what the action is that I want them to take. One of the easiest things, if you're just getting started, you're doing your first webinars, you're afraid of trying to sell something, nobody's going to buy it. Probably for your first webinar, what you should do is to have people fill out some kind of form. You can go to woofu.com, make a form there for them to fill out their details, their name, their address, phone number, Skype, and ask them a few questions about themselves, just for you to test the waters and to profile these people and see if they are your ideal customers, see if they are your dream clients. And that tends to work really, really well. And then you can just reach out to those who seem the most interesting to you. Make sure that you ask them the right questions. You want to ask them what are their goals financially and in their life. You want to ask them, hey, what's your current source of income? You may want to ask them, how much did your business generate for you? If you already run a business, how much did your business generate for you last year? What is your income goal or your revenue goal for this year? What would your dream life be like? If you could have it now, if money wasn't an object, if skills weren't an object, you already had all the skills you need, you have all the right mentors, get them in that zone where they can reveal this powerful information to you, and then reach out to them one-on-one. Add them on Skype, give them a phone call. Don't let too much time go by, or they will forget that they filled out the form in the first place, and they'll have no idea who you are or why you're calling them. Allow maybe 24 to 48 hours tops, and then on that call, make it a very friendly call, and that's where you can sell them. Once you have their trust, once you have listened to them, remember, listen to them, that's when you can finally, make that sale. And you see it's gonna work a lot better for you, my friend. I hope you have enjoyed my webinar tips. This is Carolina Millan on another episode of Driving with Carolina, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.